Welcome to the squad, the boys, season 5, episode 8, the grand finale, the series finale. I am your host, Jerome. Today we'll be going over the pros and cons of episode 8 of the finale, as well as our thoughts on all of the boys as we go from the beginning to end over the course of these last 7 years. I have my co-host Ken with me, and then we have our guest James and Lando on to go through this with us. Ken, if you'd like to get us started.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. I thought the finale stuck the landing. I think the one thing that they had to get right, and for me, was Homelander's death. I feel like they nailed it. I thought it was emotionally satisfying. I thought
Mhm.
like the acting was incredible. I thought the writing was like very well written. Like when Homelander loses his power, that moment, I thought Anthony sold it perfectly. And again, you're talking about arguably one of the greatest, most appreciated characters in the superhero space in the last decade. So there was so much buildup and so much that needed so much necessary satisfaction for that moment. And I thought they nailed it. Um
Yeah.
over and then just to take a step back to as the boys is such a meta show. I love the ending because at the end of the day, Vought continues to be in power. Stan Edgar is right back where he was. Now, yes, our heroes, technically our heroes, beat up the bad guys, but they didn't actually solve the problem holistically, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful meta commentary on how superheroes work. Whereas, okay, so you have like these superheroes that punch bad guys in the face, but they don't actually stop, like, again, the overarching issue. But again, because that's what sells. Like you have a hero, you have a bad guy. Like you're not meant to really solve like any of these problems holistically, and that's what sells toys. So like at the end of the day, the last moment you had Huey, with his pregnant girlfriend getting ready to,
Hmm.
go beat up bad guys, but they didn't actually solve anything. Again, too, the Huey versus Butcher final confrontation, again, I thought they nailed it. At the end of the day, you knew that deep down it had to happen at some point. You knew it because these guys just see things too differently. Like it's just like Cap and Stark on the Avengers team. Like when you have two people that see things like on opposite ends, either got to kick Huey off the team or like you guys are going to end up having to figure this out physically, which is what happened. So I loved that. Getting into some negatives because of course it's not perfect. Um, I won't speak too much on a few things that I had issues with because I know, like, again, I want to give everybody else an opportunity to speak on fresh thoughts. But
Hmm.
the the final action scene. So
Hmm.
for me, again, like, and I know this show specializes in like the characterization, like first and foremost. But again, power levels are there for a reason. When the power levels aren't consistent or inaccurate, the foundation for any physical confrontation falls flat on its feet.
Yeah.
And that's essentially like what happened. Again, like we're going to talk about scale. James has spoken on scale multiple times. You have a Superman level character fighting these other characters in a room, like, knocking over chairs and stuff. And I know they made a few dents in the ground, but again,
Yep.
like they didn't even go out. They didn't, the action scene didn't even transition outside. So again, like not just that, but the scale. Again, Homelander, this is someone that was flying with a train. This is someone that like literally took someone to space and then came back in about 2 seconds.
Exactly. Yep.
So, like he should have been able to fly. When I get Butcher, like stopped him a few times. Like, yeah, we all tracked the fight, but for the longest, we've been hearing scorched earth and all this. I won't speak on the promotion because that didn't bother me as much as, it bothered like, a few of our fellow diehards, but you just want to see Homelander do some Superman stuff. Like at some point, again,
Yes.
like we want to talk about budget, well, but they had a few other characters. They had Bombsight doing like large scale type stuff. You just wanted to see Homelander actually do something like far as his powers. And then, I get it. Like the counter can be, well, without his powers, he's nothing. Like when you finally confront him,
Yeah.
you see that like he can actually be taken out. No, 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 no. This is Superman. We needed to see more. So that really hurt it for me. I couldn't buy into the physical confrontation. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. Like I just couldn't do it. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, it was emotionally satisfied. Again, a few surprises as again, like for some reason I thought like Homelander and Butcher was Endgame, but Butcher and Huey being Endgame again, not
Yeah.
necessarily just a surprise. Not yes, like I said, deep down I knew it had to happen, but it was
Yeah.
still I still didn't see it coming, and it was still executed very well. So the finale, I thought again, very very strong, stuck the landing, executed a lot of the deaths that needed to, you know, really hit home. So the
What would you give
finale,
the season
speaking on the
overall? Yeah.
finale, I'd give the finale an 8.5 out of 10. For the season as a whole, I'd give it a strong 8. I had a really good time. And for the
Okay.
season, or forgive me, for the show as a whole, 8.8. No, 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 8.5. 8.5.
Okay. Appreciate the thoughts. Lando, on over to you. Go ahead and give us your version of the interpretation of the finale.
So I came off as you're never gonna feel the entirety of a show in one episode. And that's what I got off of this one. It was a good episode, but again, the entirety, the whole full closure, I don't think when you have big shows like this, you're
Hmm.
never gonna feel completely as it touched all the bases. If it's a half an hour show, definitely not. If it's an hour show, this one did not. 2 hours, maybe they can wrap up every little loose tie.
Yeah.
But for me, this one, it was still good. For what it was still good. Um, Starting from the beginning, trying to touch on things that weren't touched already, but I will talk about the fight for just 2 seconds though too. But starting from near the beginning of the episode, near the beginning, when Sage Uh, no, I don't have ADHD. I know somebody who has,
Hmm.
and they tell me how it feels like your brain never shuts down. You're always constantly thinking. It's always such a pain. And she's described this numerous times. Obviously, that's why she lobotomizes herself. But I think the actress played it really well when she woke up, found out, yeah, I don't have these
Yeah.
powers no more. I'm not that smart. The look on her face, that
Hmm.
just that relief, that sigh, I think
That
it really,
she's forgetting
yeah,
something. Yeah.
she really portrayed that for me, and I appreciated what she did in that role in that time in that moment. So it's just that switch off. So again, I don't have ADHD or anything like that, but I can imagine this her mind running all the time is something like that. Um, real quick. I, for continuity things, as soon
Hmm.
as the team got in the White House, and as soon as Butcher and Huey got into Vought, yeah, there was no security whatsoever, right? Inside. Right? They had some security on the outside. They had the one dude at the elevator. They had the guy shooting down at them at the top. But once they were already in, it was just like smooth sailing throughout the. I don't know if that was just me. Maybe I missed some
Hmm.
part, but it seemed like okay, no other Secret Service, no other security guards. No one sees them walking through. That was that. I don't know why that stuck out to me. Um,
Yeah. All the soups they had systematically set up like across the country,
mhm.
if you could call it in for
So
a little defense. Yeah.
a little something like they don't have security cameras in either building on the inside. Um, I thought oh father dying of his kink. He was the religious one. Now I'm not kink shaming when I say this, but he's dying because of his kink. I thought that
Yeah.
was um, pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh, the fight with the Deep and with Starlight,
Hmm.
that whole part of, and it was just a line. The fight was whatever. I've seen better fights, but the whole line of why are you even fighting for someone who wouldn't even piss on you? And Deep's response was, "Oh, he's my homeboy. He'll piss on me anytime I ask him to." I just
Getting
found that
lost.
I found that hilarious. Like
Hmm.
he just came up with like, oh yeah, he'll get me. Um, Now I'm going to touch on this part, but I know a lot of people are going to maybe other James Jerome can have a lot of feelings on this as well. But Homelander was supposed to die when he didn't have his powers, right? And we were all saying in a previous episode that he should die from someone who doesn't have the powers. So we obviously seen and knew he was going to lose his powers because that's why they had to do the whole chemical thing and everything.
Yeah.
But to see them both lose their powers at the same time, I think that was the satisfying part for me in that the beginning of that. So I love I love that. Um, and then just the far end, just well, depending on when you ask Huey. Now that Ken was mentioning it, like they were two polar opposites, but in the beginning, Huey seemed like he was, ready to kill and get some revenge. But by the end, I mean, he kept who he was. But I was wondering if he would have pulled that trigger or let Billy pull that trigger if he still had the same mentality as he did after his loved one got ran through by A Train, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So that was another thing that just rolled through my mind. But
Hmm.
overall, this episode was definitely again it was good. It was I would give it like an 8.5. The season I would give it like 7.9. It was one of the better seasons, so I would even lean towards 8. And then overall, just the enjoyability of the series in its entirety, I would probably give it like an 8.3. It was definitely something I came back to every season. A show that maybe I didn't watch right when it came out, but I definitely got through the seasons because I was just entertained by the characters. I was entertained by the story. Um, it jumped all over the place there in the middle for me, but in
Yeah.
the end, it wrapped it up, and I still don't like Starlight going off with a 9 month pregnant belly, like she's gonna be bulletproof or something. So that's where I'll leave it and let everyone else hope. I left some stuff to talk about, but that's just what was on my mind.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Lando. James, on over to you. What are your thoughts on the series finale?
Yeah, I gotta say, this is the biggest gripe I think a lot of us had on the last episode we talked was about how are they gonna stick the landing. And I think in
Yeah.
a thumbs up and thumbs down world, this is a thumbs up landing.
Yeah.
Very solid. The through lines for these characters. I get an inkling that they were written. I get an inkling the ending for each of these characters was written maybe 3 seasons ago by the writer. But and then just to touch on the weakness a little bit of this season, getting there I think is the biggest problem. But I'll go into my positives first. My biggest positive is definitely the Huey and Butcher confrontation at the end. I really love that. I love when we have these characters that are we watch them for 5 seasons. When we see them ebb and flow into different states of being. Huey essentially stayed that being the character he was. I don't want to say he was the moral center, but he was like that guy that's like the everyday dude trying to keep everybody together and keep everybody on that line. Butcher was always the guy that was, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. I'm going to take the V. I'm going to take. So I like how this confrontation ended up. It reminded me in a way of like a little bit of Attack on Titan's ending and Game of Thrones' confrontation with Jon Snow and Daenerys, to
Hmm.
a lesser extent. And I do like how they wrote in just a little bit of redemption for Butcher, where he started remembering things and he put his finger off the trigger for the
Trigger.
water thing he was gonna do.
Yeah.
But then he still gets shot by Huey, and Huey, no thinking about his lady probably was like, oh no, I gotta do my duty. That to me has been the biggest highlight of this episode. And it very much puts a nice bookend to that central dynamic that's been going
Yeah.
on through all 5 seasons, which is hard to do for a lot of TV shows. You don't get, or movies. Something that bothered me a lot is I feel like this episode is the epitome of too little, too late. While it was satisfying, I think, with a lot of the endings for some of these characters, I do feel like with what we were kind of meandering around in the first few episodes of this show, I'm sorry,
Through the
of this
penultimate, yeah.
season, it's like, why are we like, what are we doing here? I feel like there could have been a much more epic buildup to get to this final spot. Because if you think about it, all of the seven was pretty much dispatched in the first 25 minutes. You know, I won't go, I'm sure somebody when we're talking will go into the deeps. Um, I don't even think it's worth talking about him, honestly, with that. But like, yeah, I feel there was a lot more that could have been done with the setup to get here.
Hmm.
Overall, I do like where things ended up. As a episode to rate it for you, Jerome, I will rate it solid 7.5. As a series, though, it's funny because I was thinking about this for the last couple days, or 2 days, and it's hard because I feel like watching clips of season one again and going through some of the storylines from one, two, and three. I
Yeah.
feel that's when the boys was the strongest with the Stormfront stuff, with the when we first see Soldier Boy, who was like a direct, not a competition to Homelander, but like another
Yeah.
like a vile kind of superhero that's been corrupted,
Yeah.
by capitalism or whatever the heck, you know. And I feel those were so strong. Watching like there's no scene in this final episode that hits like the scene where Meave gets hit by that car, right? And she just doesn't move. And then like the car's got like 1,000 pieces flying
Yeah.
around her, and there's no shot or anything like that in this that really like inspires or makes you feel like you're in awe. So those would be my biggest like gripes. And what I was getting to was kind of like a series rating. It's hard because I feel like one, two, three, seasons one, two, and three are very much within the nine for especially for season one, 9 and like 8 range.
Yeah.
I feel like it's between 4 and 5. It's just decreased to like the sixes for me, if I have to be honest. So I don't know what the
Yep.
average would be if you're like 9, 8, 7, and 6. Add them all up, divide by 4. That'd be my score
Put it
for the
in.
series.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, those are my
Appreciate it,
thoughts
James.
on yeah.
Okay. As far as I go, so the finale to me felt like they were extremely aware of the shortcomings leading up to the final episode, and they just made sure that everything that was kind of expected out of the finale came through. And the metaphor I want to use is going through a class in the school. I feel like we've probably all been in that instance where we've procrastinated on everything and we're pushing everything to the very end. We're missing assignments and stuff like that. But on the very last test, we study, we pull an all-nighter, and we get just enough to get that D, just enough to pass the class. And that's what I really felt like this episode was to me, was just enough to satisfy, at least for myself, my expectations for the boys. On the pro side, for sure, Homelander is the star. He is the LeBron James of the 2018 finals, dropping 50 points. And unfortunately, everything else surrounding him could not help facilitate a win in that game. But his performance, especially when he loses his powers, I thought you couldn't get lower than Chance as the deep and what he was putting out there in terms of just this vile human being that's given up everything, that is shown their true like hand forever and just been like a complete piece of shit. And Anthony did an amazing job even going lower than that in the final scene where he has nothing now. He has no powers, and the way that he verbalized his lines, his facial expressions, his surprise to not having his powers anymore and what he couldn't do with that, I thought was incredible. Um, I felt like Ashley, for me, carried almost the whole season in terms of her consistency of acting and her character, her character storyline. So I appreciated that she got that like final joke of um, thinking that she had gotten out of it only to get impeached. I thought that was hilarious. Um, and then to Butcher, Carl Urban, to once again another good performance. Or I'd say great, not to the level of Anthony Starr, but I thought he did a very good job in his scenes as he's done as Butcher throughout the entire series through this season, at least in what he wants to do, what um, Butcher's storyline is, and then in the final with his interactions with Ryan, and then I think he did a good job, not as good as Anthony Starr when he loses his powers, but his death scene and sitting there with Huey, I thought was pretty well done. Oh Father, another great standout. I thought he accomplished everything that he wanted to do here. I always felt I had good perception of his ability whenever he was on screen, so I want to give a shout out to him. Um, and then a very small thing for me that like I don't know if it holds any place in like this type of conversation, but Terror the dog, like a question for everybody, like later on after I finish, but if he lives, does Butcher want to annihilate the rest of the soups? I'm not. I know it's probably still a yes and stuff like that, but the way like the dog's impact on Butcher in this scene, and then when he eats the chocolate cake, I felt like was like the one time Butcher steps outside of his complete, utter destruction of superheroes and really cared about something else outside of that. And it's just, I don't know, there's no place here, but it's just so funny to me that I really appreciated the two scenes with Terror with the dog. Um, Now going into the cons, like Kenan pointed out, um, you know, an original thought of mine, but not unique, as many people have pointed out. We really went from scorched earth to scorched office. I work in education. I work with students with special needs. Um, and right now I'm in a kindergarten class, and that place can get crazy sometimes when we're cutting up stuff or we're going through, we're having a fun time. And I felt like it was close to what my kindergartners could do to like destroy a room, is what I'm seeing Homelander do. So, and like Ken talks about, he just picked up the wealthiest man on on the planet and just took him out, took him to space. And Annie had just taken the deep across the, maybe not across the country, but took him to a beach. So the fact that we stayed within that office and what I've seen Homelander be able to do when he uses his abilities to the max potential, when he's chasing down A Train, um, when he cuts Kimiko in half previously, it just sucks that this is all they could really give us. And while I felt like once they decided to do that, they did an okay job of the fight scene within their scope. The scope needed to change in order for the impact of Homelander's Scorched Earth, Homelander and Butcher's Scorched Earth to really come to fruition for us as an audience. Once again, Frenchie, like, he's had one of the biggest, like, most serious lines in the final season. But then, like, I just hated that his in his eulogy when they go over his last will and testament, like there's just so many jokes about assholes, and I just really like that. To me is like one of the worst things that has stuck through for this entire season. It's just too many of these dirty jokes and in moments that we needed wholesomeness. We needed to come back together, whether it's characters, personalities, shape shifting to the core foundation of the show, or just moments that I felt like needed to. Maybe you just have one of those in there, but they just continue to reiterate that. So I lose that ability to take Frenchie's character seriously when that's supposed to be his last will. Um, and there's too many things to wrap up. So while they did an okay job of that, there was never going to be, or I perceive that there was never going to be enough to really get done within the 60 minutes of the finale episode. Um, Beyond that, I feel like this episode probably for me was about a 7.5. I think it was good. I feel like Anthony Starr's performance carried for this season. I'd probably give it a 6. It was just okay. And then overall, because the first 3 seasons are amazing, I'm trying not to focus on my recency bias with what I've seen this season. I'd probably give it a 7.7 out of 10. And going into kind of discussion about this, I want to know, do you guys firmly, because I would assume that Butcher and Homelander are the top two. And I just want to get a quick Does everybody feel like those are the two people that have carried the show throughout? Are those your top two MVPs for the longevity of the boys?
I might Butcher and Home. I might, yeah, and then with the what MV the third place being Soldier Boy because he was in two
Hmm.
seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I could see that. It sucks I can't. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't speak for you guys. It sucks we can't
Yeah.
say Huey because I feel like Huey would have hit more, if he was just more of an interesting character. If he was
Yeah.
written to be a little better, so which would make the final confrontation and his choice, essentially choosing humanity over hatred like Butcher did. It would have hit more, I feel. By the way,
Yeah.
7.4 for the whole series. I just did my average for I added them all up, the season
Thanks,
ads, and then
James.
divided by five, and I'm like, yep, 7.4. So
What
Well,
about you, Linda?
I don't know how you could leave Huey out though as the one carrying the show. And when I say carrying and how I define it is, um, he was obviously one of the main characters. The story
Yeah.
began and revolved and ended on him. Whether you
Yeah, I
like
guess
his
to talk
character
about
or
the
not, whether you
performances of the characters. Yeah.
okay, so just like the acting. I mean, still, I wouldn't give him one of the top performers, but he
Hmm.
played that part. I think he played that part well for what it was written as. Um, his acting skills, I mean, that's another thing, but I think he played that part of what it was supposed to be. If we were
Yeah.
talking about the skills and what they're supposed to be, if they come across like that, then the D came across how he was written. He
Yeah.
acted very well for that role too. So
Yeah, I guess yeah, it's
I
a
think there was
combination of
just
the acting prowess and then where the character storyline went, because obviously you can execute on something that isn't necessarily like feels good, but you still execute on it. So just like who are your MVPs for the characters in terms of putting all that together? Like, yeah, who's your top characters?
can we say just the boys team? Like so when Huey, Mother's Milk, and Billy were together and they were either pulling off some mission or something like that, I felt that really um our opinions about the different seasons
Hmm.
differentiate. But I when they were together as a group pulling off something, I appreciated that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but yeah, I guess I'm going along with like just the one character and their through line from the whenever they appear, whether it's season one, season three, wherever, all the way through to the end of the series. Like for me, it feels like the easiest that's like no question is like Homelander from beginning to end. By Anthony Starr was perfect. Number two, I would feel like is Butcher, but that's why I kind of wanted to run it by you guys first. Is do we feel like Butcher's number two, or if it's somebody else?
I guess I'll go next. So number one, of course, Homelander. I mean, like you have discussions, is Homelander on Heath Ledger's Joker's level? I mean,
Oh, okay.
our community doesn't throw out those comparisons lightly. So it's
Yeah.
Homelander number one, definitively and by far for me.
Yes.
Number two, to your point, I think Butcher's had a great ending. I mean, he basically got two final
Yeah.
boss fights. He got Homeland. He took out Homelander.
They
He
got the
got to kill
bonus character
Homelander.
boss fight.
Yeah, and then he got to kill he well, he didn't he got killed, but
Yeah.
I thought he had the strongest ending. I know like Soldier Boy just isn't in it enough. I mean,
Yep.
if you're talking about who had like the highest highs, he
Hmm.
probably would be up there. I mean, Father
Yes.
was barely, was only in one season and he did like really well. I thought
Yeah.
Stormfront like did really well.
Yeah. You can't be the
Um,
MVP if you're taken out of the fourth quarter and you don't play the fourth
right.
quarter.
Right. Yeah. So for me, it has to be Butcher. I mean, you kill Homelander on national television, like it's got to be you. But like I said, I mean, Homelander's performance is just literally god tier. I mean, Heath Ledger's Joker's performance is something that's regarded as untouchable. But you
Hmm.
have a good amount of people in our community actually having that discussion. But
I
hold on,
respect
Jerome,
that.
you think that's
Yes.
you
So
would
yeah, I
put
have those top two. So that's what kind of
what?
leads me. Go ahead.
But like, no, no, hold a quick question for
Oh,
you.
you did the comparison
No,
with
I got to
Ledger.
I got to know. So like, is Homelander's
That's the first
peak
time I heard that.
up there with Heath Ledger's Joker?
I think so because I think, and I don't mean this in any sort of like bad way. but we transition. There's so much that goes into our perception of something surrounding a lot of events. So the fact that Keith had passed away after that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't take away anything from his performance, but that can add on to the standing that we carry on in our heads. Um, so we have to use that sometimes as a filter, kind of remember to gauge off of what we saw. Same thing with like I talked about recency bias. I try and pause on myself when I'm reviewing what my thoughts are on the boys as a show when I'm just and taking my mind out of okay, I gotta forget just about last season and remember the previous times that was years ago. When we're talking about the first three seasons being, in the first what, like 4 years, so 3 years previous to this. So I do think that yeah, his performance is up there with Heath Ledger, 100%. I do
I
feel like that
disagree.
is an accurate comparison. Okay,
I
go ahead,
disagree
James.
with that. I don't think he has the you know what? If you were comparing him with season one and season two Homelander, I might. Because there were some times where he was talking like the plane scene in season one, for instance, right? You
Hmm.
feel that threat, you feel that aggression there. I feel he kind of leaned more towards camp towards the end of the series. It's like,
Okay,
all right, here's Homelander again doing, here's another one of these jokes, here's another one of these. I'm
I hear
not
you.
taking
Yeah.
away from it. I just don't think I still like the whole performance and everything. I think it's still great, but I don't think with it's on the level of the Heath Ledger Joker, because that's more of a timeless performance that I'll think about here and there when I'm talking about this kind of content. When we're
Hmm.
talking about superhero content, a Homelander may come up, but it's not going to be something that I think about as like 10 years from now. I don't know, like there'll be a mention of Homelander here and there. We'll still be talking about Heath Ledger's Joker the same way we do today.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, just to add on one thing to that, I
Hmm.
actually agree. I would have given, I would have put Homelander closer or maybe even the same level if we got to actually see him do some Superman stuff, like even within their budget. I think at some point you embody this character and you have to actually, the character actually has to do that stuff. So, like, as God tier as Heath's performance is, he gets to do Joker stuff for damn near the entire movie. Like, props to Anthony Starr. Like, he got to
Uh-huh.
essentially be as threatening and as terrifying with not doing any of this. Well, doing Superman stuff here and there. I just think that if you don't actually get to do any of the Superman stuff in the finale,
Okay. Because
yeah,
I'm interpreting just as that actor's performance as that character, and not
yeah.
necessarily the limitations that's put on the character that are outside of their control. You know what I'm saying?
No, no, yeah, and it's definitely that definitely makes sense. But
Yeah.
I think there's only so much like acting can do. Like at some point, like the
Yeah.
character's legacy, like
I respect
has to
that.
also like do not some of the heavy lifting because he still did all the heavy lifting, but he's
Yeah.
still doing Joker stuff. Like he's still
Yeah.
blowing up a bunch of stuff. It's still Heath's performance too, but
Hmm.
Anthony is literally like, let me turn on my heat vision and scare you, and then let me kill someone
Yeah.
off screen, and so
Yeah. Let me shoot you with the beams to just pause you for a second instead of cutting you in half like I had just done previously.
There's something
Um,
different about his performance in this. Like I had mentioned, like he kind of not leans all the way towards camp, but there's something a little more jokey, I guess, about. And the same thing with the deep too. Like something about like the actor's performance. I don't know if it's like they're phoning it in or if it's the writing that's doing it. But I do feel like these characters were sharpened really well as characters in the first few seasons, and I feel like it's kind of like somebody going to work and then just clocking in, for their paycheck. Not saying that's what they did, but it feels like, okay, we don't really have like these characters were really interesting. Now they're just at a lull, right? They're just kind of like at a
mhm.
like they're just kind of sitting there. We're not really doing something super interesting with them. And a
Yeah.
missed opportunity with the deep. I mean, after he killed Black Noir, we could have done something with him where like this guy just flips, right? And actually becomes a threat. And I'm sure that could have gone somewhere
Yeah, he can
interesting.
fly. So
Yeah, well,
whoa.
I don't. I actually, I don't want to start talking about the deep because then I'm gonna start lowering scores and stuff.
Well, because
yeah.
James, like, is to your
Go ahead.
point, it's I have heard the criticism that they made Homelander a bit more cartoonish villainy, as opposed to how like intricate and complex he was through the first 3 seasons. Maybe they really wanted to get him to that point where he was like just a straight up bad guy. But to your point, like it is interesting. Like when you play at the end of the day, when you become a one dimensional villain, I think to your point, there's only so much you can do with that performance. Although I still think he did an amazing job with the direction and script that he was given. But I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
Yeah, I just like for me, I just really like the what the deep is supposed to be in the setting the bar as low as possible for like a human being or a character. I thought he did a great job at portraying that, down to his last no that he screams out to Annie. And for Anthony Starr to what I felt like
Good
even
point.
go lower than that is where I'm like, okay, you've been carrying this character this entire time as this kind of this persona, and to be able to flip like that and give a performance in a different realm of emotion, so to speak, and to nail it perfectly for the one time that you get to really show your weakness to the
Good point.
audience. I thought it was, yeah. So that's great to me. Whereas like somebody like Heath Ledger's Jokers, they're the same character the entire time. The entire time. So when you have to adjust yourself. And then too, that comes with the TV show. You have so much more so many more minutes, hours on screen that it's tougher to do that throughout. Because you have to continue to carry that character from scene to scene, episode to episode, season to season, than just a one shot movie.
And to
You
your
know,
point, I mean, Anthony Starr had what 7 or 8 lines to get across that this character was pathetic without his powers. To your point, on the same level as the Deep, and he knocked it out
Yeah.
of the park. That was arguably the top 3 most important moments for the character, and he
Yeah.
100% nailed it. Well done. Yeah, that's why I said the finale really worked for me.
yeah, Jerome, you don't think that Homelander showed his weakness throughout the entire series?
Yeah. I mean, but it's now that the mask is off.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like the powers are gone, so he can't talk like that anymore. Now it'd be interesting if he tried to talk like that through that, but still, I mean, he kind of tries to, but then he realizes he's now like there's nothing. He's nothing without his powers. It's everything that like Iron Man and Cap were arguing at each other about in the first Avengers. Is you're nothing without everything that you have at your disposal in terms of your powers. So like when he flips that switch of like, okay, I'm nothing, and now I need to just survive. Like I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think like the weakness. Like for me, like to me, Homelander's weakness is like his hubris, similar to Billy Butcher sort of being consumed by his goal,
Yeah.
right? I like that. I really do like Homelander's switch up too. I wish it would have been a little more controlled because the way that he acted, having the entire rug pulled from his, being,
Hmm.
um, he's still supposedly our big bad. He's still, in a way supposed to be pretty calculating. And that's, I mean, tying it back to the earlier point I had, that's what we got from the first couple seasons, I feel, with him. There was a lot
Yeah.
of cunning and there was a lot of brains there, and I feel like we lost a lot of that. Um,
Man, now I'm just thinking about him hovering around when they were hiding out trying to kill Translucent, and him flying, and how scary how scared I felt for everybody when he's literally patrolling the area and will just take out him.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
He
See,
anyways,
these are
was
the
anyways.
things, man. These are
That's
he
the,
what I
was a
wanted
oh,
to.
literal like evil Superman, and I think that's what Ken was getting to at the beginning.
Yeah.
Was saying before he was literally like an evil Superman. Like
Yep.
his feats were there, his menacing. He was gonna cut a whole entire crowd in half with his laser vision, but then he was just dreaming about doing it. But then at the end, they had to, and maybe it was just the writing, they had to slowly bring him down to life to to make the audience feel like, okay, he can be killed, he is killable. Because those first 2.5 seasons, he just, like you said, he was just a menace.
But anyways, so outside of the Heath Ledger question, my question off of just solidifying that top two is who do you guys have as number three after them? Who's your number three after the main two and Butcher and Homelander?
oh man,
I mean, the show
James,
wants it to be Huey.
I
Huey.
don't think it's Huey.
Dan Egger.
No, I agree. I said the show thinks it went.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Was Edgar in there long enough?
Yeah, I mean Edgar
I mean,
wins.
you could choose any character. Yeah. Okay.
I'll let I'll let I'll let you guys go first.
Go ahead, Lando. Was it Edgar
Um,
for you?
I mean, Edgar played the part from the beginning to end. He had that same menacing, calculated. Every time he was on the screen, you always thought
Hmm.
he had a plan B. And then when plan B failed, he had C and D ready. You just kind of got that feeling off of him from every season all the time. So,
Okay.
I mean, he played it very well. He got out when he needed to, and then he stepped right back in at the end when it fit him and it suited him. So I'm not saying like he calculated the whole thing, obviously, but he was intelligent enough, his character was smart enough, and they gave him the script to be able to say, okay, oh yeah, he still has his swag, he's still that guy that we need to calculate
Yeah.
into everything that happens.
And I really appreciated when it was kind of revealed of like him adopting his daughter, if I remember correctly, and his fatherhood side. Once again, you're adjusting your perspective from the capitalistic monster that is Stan Edgar, and you really get to see him kind of care as a father for his daughter and granddaughter. I thought was really good nuance. So like to your point, like that's another good thing that's working for him. Um, One of the things that I think about just internalizing when I think about this question is I give props to longevity. So to me, if a character's been there season one and they go all the way to the finale, like I give bonus points for that. So like obviously that's why Homelander, Butcher, the boys, they're all like there the entire time. Um, so that's how I kind of internalize it. James, who do you have as your third?
It's going to be Soldier Boy, and the
Yeah,
reason
I
being
respect it.
is because remember we were talking about the first two seasons of The Boys and how menacing Homelander was. So
Hmm.
for you to bring in this other character who is our Captain America sort of ripoff, right? To riff with our the Superman sort of ripoff, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
how you have evil Superman, evil Captain America in terms of like the Boy Scout, like level, right? They should be like the same. But the way that we were able to differentiate these two characters and we have somebody that poses a different enough threat because in season three they tried to use him as a villain, then he
Yep.
flipped. And then in this one, and a lot of it is because the best comparison I can bring is Game of Thrones. When Joffrey died, you were thinking like, shit, they are never gonna top Joffrey. We have like, there's not, this character was such a piece of shit. Yeah, just
Hmm.
kind of like Homelander in a sense, right? And
Yes.
then here we go with Soldier Boy, and I'm like, oh man, like it's kind of like a Game of Thrones with Bolton, Ramsey, no, Snow.
A lot of characters that no problem, no
He was,
problem.
yeah, Ramsey Snow, because he technically was a bastard. But anyway, yeah, like this guy's like, holy shit, this dude is just as bad, or worse in some ways. And you can see that
Yeah.
with Soldier Boy. Even in this season, you
Straight
have
out of
like
the
a lot of
1940s.
conversations where you can tell that Soldier Boy is, and this is a testament to Jensen Ackles. This man is
Yeah.
thinking in the past and thinking about what his future is going to be. Where you have Homelander who's just thinking about the now and like I want my power, I want my V1 or whatever. Soldier Boy, you can definitely tell like this man really is aged and there's a lot going on within him. More so than as much as like he exudes the crass asshole kind of,
Yeah.
vile kind of shit that we expect from the boys. So that's why I go with Soldier Boy.
Okay. And what about you?
Stan Edgar. Yeah, I mean
Okay.
he wins the show. So he and I think like the boys is a meta commentary on the superhero space, and I mentioned this on one of the earlier podcasts, but we got to hear Sister Sage break down her intellectual interpretation on exactly like how the world works, and then you got to hear Stan Edgar do it in the same episode. But
Yeah.
Stan Edgar actually, everything he said actually came to fruition, and he ended up running VOD again. And the way that he spoke about the system and cause and effects, I just thought it was great. I thought he actually ended up being the most intelligent character on the show. And then just one more thing too, I also grade this on how who had the greatest confrontation with Homelander. Butcher has countless amounts of them, and Butcher kills it, so
Okay.
he gets the two spot.
Yeah.
That's still Stormfront just wasn't in it enough, and
Hmm.
for of course obvious reasons, I hate that character. Soldier Boy to me, that's the only reason why I disqualify him. He wasn't in it, but those two characters, their peaks were of course up there with Homelander. But Stan Edgar's confrontation with Homelander in I don't know if it was season 2 or season 3 when he essentially calls him bad product.
Yes.
And of
Yes.
course Homelander like with hearing, it's like, hey, your heartbeat isn't, racing or anything. You really don't you really aren't afraid of me. And so yeah, I agree with Lightlander on that one. Stan Edgar for
Yeah.
me.
For me, so this is where it kind of mine's kind of left field. I've kind of been hinting at this as we've gone through the discussions. But for me, it's really Ashley. I think from where she was in season one to season five, I feel like, you talk about the deep as like the embodiment of like the worst stuck up in the entire world. I feel like Ashley is the embodiment of stress. And I feel like when you watch everything that she has to go through from season one and her position and fought all the way up to like president of the United States, I've felt like she's had consistent screen time throughout, and I feel like she's really nailed her performances. And then when they added on her powers, I thought it was like a perfect fit. Seemed like when like Stan Edgar fell off, like there's like gaps in memory of like his impact or in the story overall were missing. And then they kind of like I just don't get like he runs Vought at the end. I don't know why he's not dead or anything like that. I mean, I get it because like Homelander doesn't really potentially doesn't kill anybody that isn't actually afraid of him. Um, but I felt like her performance and her character progression throughout was probably the third best for me throughout. So that's why I really want to get it because we know like the top two are there, but I was wondering if there'd be a little bit of discussion on number three. So I appreciate that. And then Ken, what you talked about, I want to touch upon briefly in terms of the boys as the meta commentary. Do you guys still feel like it deserves that with the ending that it gave us? Because I feel like one of the things that's supposedly the meta commentary in superhero movies is, once it ends, the characters get locked up and like there's no real significant change. We're just kind of recycling through things. So once again, like them setting up the finale to be like scorched earth and what we really got out of it. And then two, with how Butcher kind of goes out in his conversation with Huey, does it does it lose that title of meta commentary on superheroes in the way that it ended?
So for me it doesn't because the bad guy loses, but overall the system wins. And I think that's what happened. Like had and again, it's a very difficult conversation to have because you're talking about gassing all of the soups that work
Hmm.
for Vought. That's not, and I don't have an alternative either. So I don't really
Yeah.
have the solutions. But how do you actually stop the problem? And they didn't. Like the way they ended it was they're going to continue to beat up bad guys and raise a kid. And I thought that was very
Superhero-esque.
accurate. Yeah, very accurate to, like what superheroes are. I mean, like at the end of the day, you need Joker to break out and continue to blow up blocks and stuff. And for all of these villains, like they're not meant to actually stop the overarching problem. Like I mentioned earlier, they're meant to stop the mascot for bad guys. Again, you have a superhero action figure, the protagonist, the antagonist, and then you hit them together.
Hmm.
But like I said, Butcher was actually wanted to solve the problem. Now, to your earlier point, I know he lost Terry. He wanted to do it a bit quicker. I assume he eventually would have gotten there next week, but
Yeah.
he Huey stops him. But I think that's what super like they like at the end of the day, like, do you make the tough choice? And again, like I said, I don't
Yeah.
have like an alternative. Like gassing all the superheroes, I'm not signing off on that either. But I don't really want to do it the way Huey wants to do it either. So
Yep. Lando James, any thoughts on that? And how do you guys feel like the ending
No, I
portrays
think I think
superheroes
it's
commentary?
I don't think it touched on a commentary or anything. This I think it just ended like a lot of these superhero shows and stuff kind of do. I
Yeah,
feel
the
like it could
stores.
have gone for that Attack on Titan sort of ending, with Ken talking about the how the cycle continues even after, because Attack on Titan is the same thing where it's like you beat the bad guy, but then you see like the world reverts back to war, right? It's like the
Hmm.
Fallout 4 or the Fallout saying war never changes.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I don't think this show really, I'll be honest, I don't think it really just got that deep, or just maybe I'm too ignorant to the intricacies of the writing and what they were trying to say. I think it kind of just I don't think it really said anything other than like, yeah, what Ken said, I agree with it, but I don't think it was anything deeper than that.
Okay.
Um, I mean, yeah, Ken and James already touched on it, and it just kind of just that's what it was. It went back to this is just a TV show. This is just the it had to have because that's what U.S. American kind of shows are. We need to wrap up as best as possible into a nice little bow. The whole commentary on the how it relates to social. I'm sure someone could pick it apart and say, okay, well, um, Homelander represents this person because it's all about his ideals, and anybody who doesn't like it
Hmm.
is on the outside and they need to be dealt with. And well, uh, Billy's the antagonist, and he has the opposite end of thinking, the left and the right. You could make all those little um, cross nuances, the little symbolisms, all you want, but we would have to get into the minds of the writer, and
Yeah.
I don't want to get too political on here, but like we have a Trump who is pushing his agenda, right? And that's all that really matters, and people
Yeah.
buy it into that and run with that and take that, and some people who just don't automatically take it as truth, and other people that do. Hence the scene where they're all in the movie theaters and they're trying to get a sense of, okay, these people want to want to believe, they need to
Yeah.
believe. So I mean, you could get into that, but it is just what it is. It's a TV show. They needed to wrap it up. They needed to put the whole
Yeah.
commentary on how it relates to life. We'll never really know. So that's not a real
Yeah.
definitive answer, but I don't think there is one.
Yeah. And as a final thought, I just feel like when the boys first premieres and we go through season one, it's it takes a stark contrast with how we take in the MCU, how we take in the DCU, and we're distancing ourselves away from the overall good guy feel of those types of movies, and we go into the trenches of like how sadistic and how crazy people would be if they had powers, how humans would be if they had powers. Um, and when you set yourself apart like that, I would really expect it to come through on the ending, and that's where I feel like it just came back to ending like most other shows would end. That I'd expect it to continue that level of straying away from the norm all the way through the finale. So the way that it ended to me is where I feel like it just becomes like a play on itself, and we're losing the aspect of trying to shine a light on how things would really be with this type of change in our society with these powers available to certain
Yeah.
people. So it's where like it crashes and burns for me.
Yeah.
So
Um,
you don't think because I mean you had more visibility on the corporation and Vought because I disagree that this ends just like any other superhero show because technically Vought and Stan Edgar win, which but I think that happens in most superhero stuff, but you just don't have visibility to it. Whereas this,
yeah.
like they more put it in your face. Where
Well, I
again,
guess
like
I'm talking specifically just on the level of like sadistic tendencies that we have in the beginning of the season as we go through, and then it just ends with how many people die in that last episode. I feel like we could count that on our fingers almost to a
Hmm.
point where it's like you've distanced yourself away into like, oh, we're crazy and stuff like that, and then at the end it's just like a few of the main bad guys dying and then Butcher dying, and then it's like, that's it. And they have their little moment back and forth with Huey where he gets to, oh no, but like it's a good thing that you killed me. And it's just, yeah, it just becomes like a play on itself instead of continuing on with how crazy this stuff should have ended.
You know what? Yeah, I'm
That
with you on
aspect.
that. I'm with you on that, Jerome, because season one really set the precedence that this show is about like what it's like having a corporation essentially make superheroes to bring into like our world, that whole sort of the whole like shining the light on capitalism and how does that work when we have corporations that own and make these superheroes the product as
Mhm.
Stan Edgar says. And I feel like some of that got lost towards the end here. We don't really get into that. It just kind of turns into a Homelander. I want to get my V1. Speaking of, hold on, that V1 wasn't that supposed to like turn him into like Super Saiyan 3 or some shit like that, or
Because it
like
just
make
makes
him
them
super
live
powerful?
forever.
Oh, okay. I thought it was supposed to give him more power because that's what I
And
was
that's where
getting at.
Because he
yeah,
shot the heat
he's,
vision, basically.
yes,
Yeah,
it
and I'm
looked
like,
like it
okay,
looked like it,
this
and
man's on
then
another level, and then he's just,
he couldn't burn through Kimiko's shirt. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's another convert. Here,
But
Yeah.
to go back just really fast and one little question that
Hmm.
came to mind then would if they would have released that virus into the world, would that have changed the ending then? Would it be more of oh, okay, I was definitely not expecting this. I mean,
that
they
could
would
Yeah,
have
I
had to
just
save some of the main characters, right? Kimiko would have
yeah.
had to adapt. Starlight would have had to have
Yes.
a thing,
What
but
I'm
then
saying is
everyone
like,
else.
yeah, the boys in continuing the story on and then turning it into a series that then now you have to think about, okay, future properties. It pulls away from your ability to have a finale like that, to have an ending like that. I think you could do that with a prequel because I mean, put in a prequel, you give Soldier Boy and Bomb Sight their time to shine previously, that's fine. But then if you're going to continue the story in like the boys Mexico and stuff like that, now you're really handicapping all the crazy stuff that's been happening for the first four seasons, and you're just saying, well, we have to continue forward. So only the only
Well,
consequences are going to be for our characters in the show.
crazy writing and creativity. You could definitely have people that are immune, right? Of any disease, there's always some people,
Yeah.
the
Last of
5%, the
Us.
3%, right?
Well,
That aren't affected by it or do survive from it. So, I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
could
yeah.
always go that way as well.
and I think that's the meta
Go ahead, Ken.
commentary of it. You can't
Okay.
kill all the soups because you can't have spin-offs that make
Hmm.
more money. That's
Yeah.
essentially like, what they're saying. Because that's what Butcher should have done. Question though, like building off of Eddie's question. Actually, Eddie, like question for you. Butcher, let's say Butcher succeeds, he gasses all of them. Does Vought so is Vought done? Like, do they find another product? But
No, I mean that it's like on the um it's like a comment on society, right? The ones with the money is gonna win. So Vought as a company, they end up coming out at the top, right? They end up Stan is back in place. So if they lose this product, the company pivots. They find another way to take advantage of I hope our internets don't cut off all of a sudden. But because they hear this message, but they're gonna find a way to win. They're gonna find a way to say, okay, look, this product doesn't work. We're gonna come up with this other chemical. It might kill people, but it still takes 5 or 10 years. Or we'll come up with a different type of superhero, someone that's like, because they did it before with the V1, right? So they just come up with another.
As the company would do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
I guess I would just I would expect them to follow through on like Homelander's godhood to just annihilate everything, turn it into a very nihilistic ending with everybody. Most of civilization's wiped out. A few of your characters are left behind, and we shouldn't like where there's so many times throughout the show where you just get this like disgusting feeling of what you're witnessing. And I feel like that is what should have been carried through the ending. And now, unfortunately, that doesn't lead to anything afterwards, but it should be that's what I would have expected the
Yeah.
ending to feel like is we're hopeless. Maybe there's a couple people left behind to try and build things back up, and that's where the little bit of hope is. But you let a Superman type of character happen, then you get Injustice Gods Among Us. You don't get the recyclement
Oh,
That's what I
of
was saying, thinking
that's
like
an
you get the
Elseworlds
evil
though.
Superman, yeah, and
Uh,
then the
well,
wasteland.
who is
Everyone's trying to come
Homelander?
back.
well, but Injustice Gods Among Us is an Elseworld within DC. I mean, this is the main continuity for the boys. So
That's what I'm
we
saying
can't.
though, is like he has the same type of um authoritarian role in his positioning. And when it all and that's but that's where it goes further than that because the show's more like on the baseline negative human desires is that he just wipes out everything before being finally taken out. And like we're just left in another pit of like what we just watched is terrible in the sense that of like what happened to everybody in within the story. And there's a very few people left to pick up the pieces. But it's a and that's where it comes down to like the break in that it's tough to end things like that where it's a horrible ending where you feel bad, you feel like there's no hope going in at the end credit scene. So
But if that's
but
what they
yeah,
want, then all of a sudden you could see the little gleam of hope, like someone rises out the rubble you weren't expecting to, and then dun dun dun, we get more toys to sell, right? So they could have done that
yeah,
as well.
oh yeah. um yeah, I think with that, we appreciate your time with us here today. The finale of the series of The Boys was, a crazy experience. Ken and I got to experience it within, the 40X Regal movie setting. But we want to hear your guys' opinions on how it ended down below as well. So please go ahead and leave a comment, like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.